everyone. I'm so glad to have you here and so glad to see you guys as part of our Bengal NIL Academy. My name is Shane Hunt. I got to meet a lot of you at the athletics kickoff event the day before the semester started, and I've had a number of you in class, and I'm just so proud of everything you guys are doing on the field, on the court, on the track, and everywhere in the classroom. And this is really something that I think is a perfect way to start this discussion, which is to talk about personal branding, which is essentially what name, image, likeness is. So when the NCAA made this decision that you could profit from your name, image, and likeness, I think that is the right decision and a very important decision, but it also changes the dynamic of how we look at ourselves and how we look in business. Oh, we got somebody coming in. Just pop the door open. So what you guys can't see on camera is we have live people here, and they're coming in, and that works out perfect. You didn't miss anything. We're so glad you're here. You didn't miss anything. We just got started. So have a seat. No, there are no bad seats, right? So, but when we talk about name, image, likeness, I wanted to start. You're going to have some great sessions over the course of the next 6 weeks on financial literacy, on sales skills, on accounting, because one of the things that you guys will learn is that when you start making more money, which is awesome, the United States federal government, the state of Idaho, and whatever state you live in comes calling for taxes. But how you deal with those basic things, we'll talk about social media marketing, which is such a huge thing today, even so much bigger than it was a year ago or 2 years ago pre-COVID. But I wanted to start by talking about this whole idea of what does your name, image, and likeness mean, and how do you manage your personal brand? Okay? So let's start by talking about this. When you think about brands, right, what does that mean? Brands are symbols and logos. I am terrible at art. So Laura knows this. My daughter is an amazingly talented artist, and I would sometimes brag about her in class. Clearly, she got that from my wife's side of the family. I could not draw anything. However, I could go to the board right now and draw a swoosh, and everyone in this room and everyone that's watching this remotely would know that that swoosh means Nike. I could not draw, but if I showed you a castle with a firework going over the top, people would say, that's Disney, or that's Apple, or those are things there. And immediately when you say those names, when you see those brands, they conjure up a meaning to you. So when I ask my students and I say, what do you think about when you see the Nike swoosh? I said, what word? Tell me a word that you associate with it. And the words are always athletic, healthy lifestyle, sports, outdoors, recreation, all fun things that Nike spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year on to make you think that when you see it. When you show the Disney castle, what do people think about? People, you ask my students, you ask college students, they'll say princesses, or fun, or family, or fairy tales, or dreams. And that's why Disney's one of the 3 most valuable brands in the world. Now, for every Nike and Disney, there's companies that have challenges. So I'll give you an example. Several years ago, this has been maybe 12 years ago, my wife was buying a new car. And I said, whatever you want to get, sounds good to me. I drive an SUV. She usually drives a sportier car. And she calls me, she said, I found the car I want to buy. I said, what's that? She said, I want to buy a Buick Regal. And I said, honey, I don't think we're that old to be buying Buicks. And it was a super sporty car, but immediately in my mind, that was the brand connotation. It was a great car. We drove it, we had it for 3 years. Great, sporty, fun car. But in my mind, that's what I thought. So I thought, I'll do this thing. So when Laura was in my class last year, we did a little thing on companies, and I did Buick as one. So I did Apple, Disney, Buick. So when I said Buick, I've got a young man sitting in my class to my left, and he goes, Dr. Hunt, first word comes out of his mouth is old. I said, that's the word you think about? Old. Then another person actually said, and I don't know how this is even an adjective, they said, grandma smell. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what that is, but here's what I know. Buick spends tens of millions of dollars in marketing because they are desperately afraid that young people like all of you think about their brand as old or grandma smell. And here's the thing. If you think that, if I think that, they're not going to have the future that what they want. Now, when you think about name, image, likeness, let's talk about this. Buick makes awesome cars. So any of you out there watching this that drive a Buick and love it, let me preface this by saying they make amazing cars. But a generation ago, 2 generations ago, that wasn't the case. But here's the thing about branding, about name, image, and likeness. The perception that Buick is an old person's car or your grandmother's car, that doesn't have to be true, but because that perception is there with young people, that is your reality. And that's why as you have success, you're going to go out and buy some other type of car because that's what you perceive. When people perceive something about you, because the same way we put a Disney logo, the same way we put a Nike logo, the same way we put an Apple logo, when they hear your name or my name, when they hear Laura, when they hear Robin, when they hear Shane, if you hear Shane Hunt, whatever comes to your mind, that's what my brand is. And that might be awesome, or that might be terrible, but that perception is the reality. So we'll talk about that in a few things. Let's start by talking about this. Basic branding. If you come take, Laura's in my marketing class. If you come take Marketing 2225, as Dean, I teach one class a semester, Marketing 2225, come hang out in my class Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. So I'll make that plug. But here's the 2 things I want you to remember. If people believe in your brand, if when they hear our name and it resonates with them and they believe in your brand and you have brand equity, having a brand that people view positively leads to 2 awesome things. And I want you to always remember this as it relates to NIL and as it relates to your career going forward. If I believe in your brand, then I'm always going to do 2 things. 1, I am always going to go out of my way to try to find your brand. So, I may have told some of you the story before. A brand that I super love, Diet Dr. Pepper. If we all took a field trip right now to the Hunt household, I can guarantee you mountains of Diet Dr. Pepper. We got refrigerator indoors, a refrigerator outdoors. Every one of them has lots of Diet Dr. Pepper, right? So, I like that better than other beverages. So if I go to the store and Diet Pepsi's on sale or Coke Zero's on sale, I'm going to go out of my way to go buy Diet Dr. Pepper. If someone believes in your brand, they're going to seek you out. They're going to say, you know what? I could hire these other people for less, but I know Laura, and I'd rather hire her and pay her more money. If they believe in your brand, they're going to seek you out. If they believe in your brand, they're going to pay you more. Diet Pepsi's on sale, Coke Zero's on sale. I don't care. I'm going to pay a 10% or 30% premium because I like Diet Dr. Pepper better. I believe in that brand. My family loves Disney. We believe in Disney. Could we go to Six Flags for less money? Absolutely. Could we go to other amusement parks for less money? Absolutely. So why do we go back to Disney every year? We go back to Disney because we as a family value that brand. And even though Disney's seen inflation and prices go up 5% or 10% or 20%, because we believe in that brand, we are willing to pay more. You guys will hear me say this before in class. The thing that none of you wants to do when you go through your college career is you don't want to finish and graduate and complete your time competing in sports and graduate and then say, hey, please hire me. I'll work for less than anybody else. I promise you, every single major, every single one of you, not one of you wants to say that. So you need to be thinking about what is it when somebody hears your name and associates something with your brand, why would they be willing to pay more? Here's the second thing that you got to remember about name, image, likeness. If people have a positive feeling about your brand, they will always look for the good things that reinforce that feeling. Contrastly, if people have a negative connotation about your brand, so here's the thing, you're in groups here at Idaho State University. You don't show up for your group projects, you don't do your part of the assignments, you don't go do the things your professors ask you to do, then you're going to get a negative connotation to your brand, and here's what will happen. If somebody has a negative connotation, if I don't like someone or something or some company, then what am I always going to do? I'm always going to look for the bad in what they do, and guess what? Whether it's me or any of you, if people are looking for the bad, they can always find something. Worked with a guy years ago when I was first in the private sector. So here I am, first generation college student. I graduate, get an MBA, I go to work for a Fortune 500 company, and I'm on the 29th floor, and I thought I was like J.R. Ewing, and that's probably a dated reference for some of you that are too young, but a show I used to watch with my parents. I thought I was like J.R. Ewing in a cubicle. Man, I was making it happen out there. And I thought, boy, we're doing good. And there was this older guy that we worked with. It was a super cool older guy, right? And he was very polished, had awesome gray hair. And now that I have a lot of gray hair, I have a greater appreciation for that. But he said to me, he said, Shane, he said, I'm going to give you a tip. And I said, sounds great. He said, I've worked however many jobs he'd had in his life, 7 or 8 different companies he'd worked for. He was probably 60. He said, my advice is, always when you start at a new company, show up early, 30 minutes before the office opens. Show up 30 minutes early every day for the first 3 weeks, and he said, you'll never be late again. Now, for those of you that are watching on video, I want to differentiate something. For those of you that are watching this on the video, I thought he was saying it like my mom and dad would say it. Like, hey, being prompt is important, right? Be on time, show up on time. And I said something to that effect, and he looked at me and he said, oh no, I'm not talking about that. He goes, I show up after 8 most days. So I thought, what lesson is he teaching me? He said, if you show up 30 minutes early the first 3 weeks, he said, even if you show up late every day after that, people associate you with being a person who comes in early. And he showed me, and like I talked to a person, he said, watch this. He said, I came in like 8:30 today. He goes, go ask somebody why you thought I was here late. And because people perceived him as someone who was always early, because that was his image, somebody said, oh, I bet he's getting donuts for everybody. Oh, I bet he had a meeting. I bet he had something urgent he had to be to. So even though he just slept in, the image was as someone who came in early, and people looked for the good in him. They came up in their own mind psychologically with good excuses as to why he was late. And they'll do the same thing for you. Okay? So if you look for the good, if you get paid more, if you see those things, those are all there. Now, here's the thing that I would tell you about your personal brand. What do you want your personal brand to say? So let's do a little exercise here. You guys got to think. Let's think about this. I want everyone that is watching this and everyone that's here with us live to think about or write down, you can share one of these, but I want you to think about the 3 things that you would most want people to say about you. Teammates, coaches, classmates, friends, significant others, whatever the situation. What are the 3 things you would most want people to say about you? So think about that for a second, and I'll tell you what my 3 are. And I alluded to something about this when I spoke to you guys at Athletics Kickoff, but I think it's an important thing, right? So, I mean, I guess in theory, you could say 100 different things about me or you, or 1,000 different things, right? We all have lots of interests and we do lots of things. But if you really said, what are the 3 things I would most want somebody to say? When you heard the name Shane Hunt, you guys are graduated, you're playing professionally, you're working somewhere, you have your own family, and somebody says, hey, Did you ever have that Dr. Shane Hunt guy, that guy was in the Chick-fil-A commercial? Did you ever have him in class? He had a weird accent, right? When you hear my name, what would I really want someone to say? And these are the three things. If I only had three, these are the three things. I would say, I want people to say that I'm a really good professor, because I love being a professor. It's the best job in the world. Being a dean's a great job, but it's not the best job in the world. Being a professor is the best job in the world. And I try to be very, very good at that. And I believe in that. And there were professors that made an impact in my life. And I try to have a positive impact on my students and help them in their life. So if there was three things, I would want somebody to say that for one of the three things. I would want someone to say that he's a really good dad. The greatest blessing, adventure of my life is being the father of a now 19-year-old son who's a sophomore here at ISU, and a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman at Highland. Love being a Bengal fan. I love being a professor, but I love being a dad more than anything. And I think that is something that I would want someone to say, that he is an engaged, active father. Totally unrelated note, way too many not engaged dads. So I just make that to the male counterparts that are seeing this, and you guys. The best thing in life, in my whole life, is being a dad, be an engaged dad. Every part of your kids' lives will be better. Totally separate. And then the third thing is, I would want people to say, you know, Dr. Hunt's a guy that treated people the right way. And I always say this, so when you have people will talk about that, and they'll say, well, you know, I treated people the right way unless I was provoked. Or I treated people the right way unless I had a bad day. Or I treated the right way unless I'd had a fight with a friend or significant other or family member or whatever. And the truth is, how I treat people every day, it's 100% me. It's not Robin's fault, it's not my students' fault, it's not my wife's fault, it's not my kids' fault, it's not my mom's fault. If you see me on campus, if you see me at a soccer game or a track and field event or volleyball match or basketball game, and I'm treating somebody mean or improperly, that's 100% my fault. And that leads into something that we'll talk about in a second, but I want everybody to understand this. When we talk about your name, image, likeness, and your personal brand that you can profit off of, and by the way, when we talk about name, image, likeness, I don't want anybody to think that this just means paying you to do social media when you're a Division I athlete. You will benefit if you market and brand yourself properly. You'll benefit from your name, image, likeness for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. So when you talk about managing your brand, you're managing that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I cannot sit in class and tell Laura that I care about students, or I treat people the right way, or I want to be a good dad, and then she sees me out at night at Texas Roadhouse or at Buddy's, and she's like, man, you know, Shane was really being belligerent to people and he wasn't being nice. Well, then, not only does she spread the word that I'm not really treating people the right way, but honestly, even worse, that I'm kind of fake about it, right? That I'm kind of disingenuous, that I'm not being honest. So, let's take those three things, and I want you to think of your three. My three: be a great professor, be a great dad, be somebody who treats somebody the right way. Somebody that's live here in the room will pick up your sound, and I'll repeat it for audio if it's not, since we all have masks on. Tell me one of the three things you would want somebody to say about you. No wrong answers to this.
I guess I can go. I think one of the things would be just a kind and genuine person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd hope that, you know, my teammates, my family, my classmates would all say that, you know, I'm kind, I treat people the right way.
100%.
I'm just a nice person in general. So.
I think that's an awesome one. And I love something that you said, and I would say that to all of you. There are a few characteristics that resonate more from a name, image, likeness standpoint than being genuine. And I think that your generation is the best generation in the history of our country at knowing when something's real and knowing when it's not. Being genuine will help your personal brand in lots of ways, both short-term and long-term. That's an awesome one. Okay? Somebody else. No bad answers. No bad answers.
I guess I was gonna say honest.
Yep.
Just that people, when they hear me say something or do something, they know it's for real. So it's really close to that genuine, because if people get any other, I don't know, if they feel that you are not honest in any way or not genuine, then anything else you put out there, any way you act, it's, what's the point?
100%. So she talked about honesty. And honesty from a branding standpoint really comes back to trust. Think about if you've seen in your life when restaurants have had some type of scandal, like the food wasn't clean, or a store had something, they were doing things. Volkswagen got into huge trouble a few years ago with what they had. Trust is the biggest reason why, well, and I'll extend this. I will tell you this. So I'm 45, and a really weird dynamic, and Laura's heard me say this in class, is I've been a professor long enough now that I've seen people meet in my class, get married, start families, and like now I know their kids. Like, Dr. O, we met in your class, and now there's like 2 people, right, that came to the earth because they met one day in marketing class. It's awesome. The contrast of that is, I've been doing this long enough now that I've seen people meet in my class, get married, get unmarried, marry somebody else, get unmarried, and you do these things. The thing I tell about this is, if you talk to people, the number one reason that people would say that relationships struggle and or end is a lack of trust. I can make up for most things. But if I don't trust you, it's hard to get past that, right? And most of us, any of us have friendships, relationships, we know that. It's amazing to me how many people don't think that the same thing applies to marketing. If I don't trust your brand, I'm not going to buy your brand. If I don't trust what you're doing, if you're not being honest with me, I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not going to say those positive things. I'm not going to allow you the opportunities to generate positive things from your name, image, and likeness. Okay? So that's a great one. How about you? We'll do one more.
Yeah, I want to say positive.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's a home run. I wish I was giving out extra credit. I may give that answer extra credit. I just had this conversation in a meeting on campus today. She said being positive. And I cannot think of more things, better things to be a part of your personal brand than that. That's incredible. People resonate towards positive brands, to aspirational brands, to brands that make them think about where they want to go and where they want to be. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but the world can be filled with a little bit of negativity, hypothetically. And the truth is, you can't hate something enough to make it change, right? You can't hate somebody. I'm amazed. And by the way, when you guys get to talk to Dr. Rose in a few weeks about social media marketing, it's going to be fascinating on that. But social media is just filled with people spewing anger and hate. And I'm always amazed when I see people go on these rants, because I think, can they hate it enough that somebody would be like, oh, I felt one way, but no, now that's what it is. The world desperately needs and wants more positive brands. And again, that's something that you're always there. It doesn't mean that you don't have difficult days, but it means that within my brand, I'm going to show up and be positive every day and bring a professionalism to what that is. Okay? So, we're going to do it here in real time, but you guys can do this at home as you're watching this on your computers or on your televisions. I want everybody to do this exercise. I want you to think of your 3 things. Okay? So think of all 3 of your things. You just shared one. Now, I want you to think about, what is it first? What are things that you can do to make people say those 3 things about you? Because here's the thing. If I say my 3 things are, I want to be a really good professor, I want to be a really good dad, I want to be a person who treats people the right way. If you go out and ask my students, or you go out and ask my friends, or you go out and ask people that know me across the university, and they don't say that, If they come back and they say, you know what, Shane's not honest, he's not genuine, he doesn't treat people the right ways, then as much as I want to sit here and say, that's what I am, what I really am is what they say. Remember that. Perception is reality. If there's something that somebody says that's negative and you don't think it's been clarified, clarify it about yourself, because the perception becomes the reality. Buick makes wonderful sporty cars, but the perception is they all smell like someone's grandmother. So even though that's not real, it is real. It's real to the people who buy and pay for their name, image, and likeness, for the Buick logo on the car. So take those three things that you have on there. I want people to say that I'm trustworthy. I want people to say that I'm a great leader. I want people to say that I'm a great team member. I want people to say that I communicate well, that I'm hardworking. Whatever yours are, and there's 1,000 right answers to this. I want everybody to take 2 minutes, and I want you to think about, what are you doing every day of your life to make people say that? Because if I say that's what I want my name, image, and likeness, my personal brand to be, these 3 core pillars, then I need to be doing things every day that get you to say that. One of the ones that I see all the time is I see people say, I want to be a great team member, a great teammate. I've had people stand up in class and do that, and then we do group projects, and guess what? They're the one person who never shows up for a group project. Say, I really like to be a great team member. Well, you got to show up. And by the way, every time you don't show up for a group project, those other group members associate that with your brand. And so when they hear in future classes another one of their friends, oh, you're in class with so-and-so, guess what? He doesn't show up. She doesn't show up. That's how brand gets that bad connotation. So even if you're doing all the things, if you're on the football field, if you're on the tennis court, if you're doing all the right things, but yet you're doing that, people don't see that. Your classmates are saying, he or she doesn't show up. They're not a good teammate. They're not somebody I would hire. So take 2 minutes and think about, what are you doing every day? Or what can you do to be able to get people to say those 3 things? So take a couple minutes. And then we'll share one of them. You can share any one. You already got your bonus points for the positive comment. Just check it on time. Okay, perfect. So again, if you're watching this, when you see it, do the same exercise. What are those 3 things? Because that's what it is. Because again, Disney and Nike and Apple are all companies who people say the things they want them to say. But then there's Buick. And quite frankly, there's McDonald's. McDonald's is struggling with this right now, where people aren't saying the things they want them to say. McDonald's wants you to say Happy Meals and fun and kids and games and toys. But if what you answer is fried food and cholesterol and the playgrounds are closed because of COVID, like, that's a real challenge. And McDonald's is really struggling to companies like Chick-fil-A and other companies that are getting better connotations when they talk about that. When you have negative things.
They try to put on this face of like, hey, it's good because
Yep.
it's always been good.
Yep.
And there's nothing empowering or positive about that because that's not realistic.
Nope.
And it just makes other people feel down about themselves. But if we can be honest about places where we're at and places where we've been and where we want to go, and if we can have real conversations with real people and show gratitude through that, then that's when you can accomplish things with people, and that's when you can actually build things worth having because they're real.
Yep.
And other people can actually learn from you when you're uplifting and honest about what you're going through and the good and the bad. And so I think that's really important.
I think that's amazing. And I would tell you that I would not only give you extra points in marketing class, but I would give you extra points in life, because that's the message that I would want my son or my daughter to take from that. She made a point about having real conversations with people. And so many people in 2021 have thousands and thousands of friends. I remember when I was you guys' age, I don't know that I knew thousands and thousands of people. But in a lot of cases, what you have are relationships that are a mile wide and an inch deep. And you said something about real conversations and genuineness that I think is important. You go look at brands who address their own limitations or their own challenges. Those are the brands that have people that stick with them, right? I will tell you all that when Dr. Rose comes and talks about social media marketing, as a marketer and what you guys can do on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and every social media platform the world's ever invented, from a marketing standpoint, provides you cheap opportunities to reach the masses that no previous generation ever had. So as a marketer, it's going to be amazing, and you guys can benefit from that. But as a father, as you guys' professor and friend, I worry tremendously about the negative impact that social media is going to have on our lives, on your lives. And I'll tell you what I think the single most corrosive element of social media is, and you touched on it. Somebody said, I'll talk about social media sometimes, and people will tell me, they'll say, oh, well, Shane, you know, the most corrosive element is all the people with hateful messages. That's pretty bad. That's awful, actually. But I still wouldn't say that's the most corrosive. The most corrosive element is that people take the best 1 minute of their day and they post that. And they say, look how amazing my life is. And everybody sees the best 1 minute of their day. And they say, why is my life not as awesome as yours? And that is corrosive from a mental health standpoint, unlike anything I think in human history. Because here's the thing, so I'm going to share as a parent. Most of you will be parents one day. So I talked about being a dad, it's the best thing in the world. So imagine, I've been a father for 19 and a half years. Don't let the gray hairs fool you, right? So 19 and a half years I've been a dad. And all 19 and a half years have been amazing, but here's what I'll tell you. If you take the single best minute of your child's life every day and you post that on social media, then every single person who sees that is going to think parenting is not just the greatest thing, which it is, but they're going to think it's the easiest thing you'll ever do in your life. Which it is not. For every 1 minute that it shows you guys winning a track meet, signing a scholarship offer, throwing a touchdown pass, it is somebody came home from school and had a fight with a friend, somebody broke up with someone, someone's sick, someone's worried about their health, and a million other things that keep you up at night. I will tell you that as a 45-year-old business dean and professor, I've gotten really good, and this is another segment on time management, but I've gotten really good at being able to compartmentalize my life, right? And I can compartmentalize every part of my life and stay focused on what I'm doing unless I'm worried about something about my son or daughter. And I can't compartmentalize that. And so when people show the best minute of being a parent, they think, why is it not easy for me to be a parent? And it doesn't inspire anyone. And it doesn't encourage anyone. It encourages them to say, we struggled with this. My son or daughter struggled with that. and to show an empathy and a realness that helps people get to a better place. And I think that is such a truthful thing to say. People connect with you oftentimes because of our individual challenges. And it will bring something to you and bring a power and a realness to those relationships that will inspire and encourage as we go forward. So I just say that to say, I know every single one of you that is on social media has at some point looked and said, why can my life not be as easy or as great or as perfect as what that is? And the truth is, if we all just showed the best 1 minute of our day, every one of our lives would be perfect. But we all know the other 2359 can have challenges. And you're a more genuine brand, you have a more genuine image if occasionally you address how those things are. So brands that show a little vulnerability are really positive. I'll give you an example. Domino's Pizza is one of the 2 largest pizza makers in the world. And Domino's came out a few years ago, some of you may remember this when you were younger. Domino's came out and said, hey, people hate our pizza. They're the 2nd largest pizza chain in the world. And they're like showing people on TV saying, we ask them what their crust tasted like, and there's people saying cardboard. There's a lady on the commercial saying your sauce tastes like ketchup. Why would the 2nd largest? They're making money. They're selling pizzas. But Domino's has come out stronger from that because they showed a vulnerability and said, we need to get better. And I think that's a really important branding thing, to have the courage and the bravery to be vulnerable and to be authentic. You benefit from it on the other side. What do you got?
I want to say caring.
Yes.
I think we tend to be selfish about our emotions. And,
Yep.
I think it's good to know how the people who surround us feel,
Yep.
and show them that we care about them and that we're there for them, we'll have their back. And when we show people that we care about them, it creates an atmosphere where they can trust us.
Absolutely. She said caring and caring about people. So I'm going to tell you guys another lie that I think people tell. So I don't believe this. So I have heard lots of people over the years, and my guess is most of you have as well, heard people say, I don't care what other people think. You ever heard that? Right? You heard people say that. I believe that that is 100% of the time a lie. Because just like we talked about, with other things, I have never known a single person of any age that didn't feel the need to care about someone or something and didn't want someone or something to care about them. So when I meet the first person that's not like that, I'll let you guys know. But at 45, I've yet to meet them. People want to be cared about. People want you to know their name. People want you to genuinely feel and empathize with what they're going about. Showing that you care is a host of different things, but it's being involved and it's saying how you really feel. So we're recording this a couple days after the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And we were at the football game in Reno on September 11th, 2 days ago, watching ISU play Nevada. But 20 years ago, I was sitting in an office and saw the towers come down, and one of the things that has always stuck with me, I was a 25-year-old man, and I was about to become a dad. My wife was pregnant with our son. And one thing that September 11th always stuck with me, I can speak, is the fact that all those people went to work that day thinking that they were going to go home that night and tell their friends and family and the people they cared about that they cared about them, and they didn't have another chance. So when you talk about caring, if you guys came and showed up at the Hunt House, you'd see a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper. But you would also hear me disproportionately tell my kids that I love them like 25 times a day. To the point, and you guys would feel the same way, to the point they're like, Dad, we know. But I'm going to keep annoying them, and I'm going to keep saying them, because there might be a day when I don't get the chance to say them, and I want to build up enough times that they know that. Caring about people and having people care about you is one of the wonders of life. And by the way, the most effective brands are brands that people perceive care about them. Right? When you hear people talk about brand loyalty, it's because their brands are helping them be better because of what they say and what that is. I've been in a Chick-fil-A commercial, so maybe I'm biased. But the steps that led to me being in a Chick-fil-A commercial was every time I went to a Chick-fil-A, the people were really nice to me. I went through to get a chicken sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper, and I felt that people cared about me. And I'd rather go to lunch someplace where people cared about me. And I'd rather pay more to go to a place where people cared about me. And people are going to say the same thing. She also said something that's very important when you're talking about your branding is to be very intentional. So the reason we do this exercise, and I ask you as you're watching this on video or watching this on your television to do that, be very intentional. Have those 3 things. And just like some of the folks in the room tonight said, what are the things you're doing to make people say those 3 things? That should be something you're doing every day. On the field, in the classroom, with your friends, in your community, with your family. Because again, you have to manage that brand 24/7. Okay? Now, when we think about brands today, and Dr. Rose is going to talk about social media marketing, but then you want to think of those same 3 things, okay? So I got the 3 things, I got the things that I'm doing to make sure people say those 3 things about me. Here's the final thing. Statistics say that about 95% of you use various social media platforms, okay? So my question is, if I took all of the Idaho State athletes, I took the track and field team, the soccer team, the football team, the men's and women's tennis teams, softball, whomever, and I looked at your social media profiles, would I in those social media profiles see those same 3 things? So here's the things you do. So I was not on social media until we had our first textbook. When we had our first book from McGraw-Hill that came out in January of 2014, they set up social media for me because they wanted to sell books. And so they set up Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and not Instagram, LinkedIn. And I used those 3, and we talk about that. So if you looked at those pages, and I encourage anybody out there, follow me on Twitter, it's Dr. Shane Hunt, Dr. Shane Hunt, or connect to me on LinkedIn. You can see me wearing a Bengal tie, even though I normally wear sweater vests. But you know what? If you went right now to my LinkedIn or my Twitter or my Facebook accounts, what I think you would see is me doing a lot of things with my family. What you would see is me cheering on the Bengals. As you guys know, every year we make the quest to go to events for every single sport. So we've already been in women's soccer, women's volleyball, and football. So we're working our way through. But you would see my family and I at that game cheering you all on. You would see that I'm a professor because I post articles about marketing. So you would see things that are interesting to me that talking about. I posted an article yesterday about the new Amazon TVs that are out there. My point is, I've met a lot of you, but if you had never met me, if you're just like, hey, there's this guy Shane Hunt, and I want you to look him up, I feel pretty confident you could look at my social media profiles and they would give you that impression of those 3 things. Every single minute you are managing your brand. Every single minute you are responsible for telling the narrative as to why I would want to hire you, why I would want you from an NIL standpoint to be a spokesperson for my company, why I would want to pay you on social media to endorse my product. Every day you're managing that brand. And so I would just encourage everyone, whatever platforms you use, have someone in your life, have a friend, have someone in class, and say, if you looked at that social media page, what would you say? And that's a really good question, because if it's not saying what you want to say, you have to understand things like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is ubiquitous in business today. I cannot tell you the number of my students that have been hired because somebody found them on a LinkedIn page. But if you're on a LinkedIn page, what is it that you're telling me? If you say my 3 things I want you to say about me is I'm smart, I'm hardworking, I care about people, What is it that you see on my LinkedIn page that makes you think that? Because if all it says on my LinkedIn page is that I've got a degree from Idaho State University, I mean, it's told you I'm smart enough to graduate college, but has it shown any of my special skills? Has it shown any of the things that I'm passionate about? Has it shown a paper that I did really good on? Has it shown an article that I wrote? Has it shown something that I've been a leader on my team or in the athletic department or in the university? What is it that you're telling me to tell that narrative? So I bring that all back around to something we talked about a little bit ago. The most important time in your life from a personal branding standpoint is right now. And I can't stress that, and that feels weird to say because a lot of you are watching this and you're saying, I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm 20. Why is that the most important thing? So in an upcoming episode, Professor Chris Chatwin, and this is going to be an awesome class to attend and be a part of, is going to talk about basic financial literacy. And he's going to talk about things like it is so much better in your career if you start investing your money young. All of you have the greatest investing blessing of them all, which is you got a lot of years to invest. When I graduated college, my parents had sacrificed. I was not on a Division I scholarship. I was far from a Division I athlete. Maybe like a Division 71 athlete. But when I graduated college, I had a net worth of 0. Wasn't negative, but I can tell you exactly what it was. It was 0. To the point to when I got my first check at Williams, the Fortune 500 company I went to work for, they put $96 of my money in my 401k, and the company matched $96. And I can remember telling my fiance, now my wife of 21 years. I remember coming home and calling her and saying, don't want to brag, but my net worth is now $192. If you invest when you're young, it turns out incredibly well. And you don't have to wait till you're 70. It turns out incredibly well. So the same way it's most important that you invest when you're young, what you are setting for your brand right now is what will build your life. If you show people now that you care about them, if you show people now that you're a great teammate and somebody that wants to work around, if you show everyone right now that your brand is of a smart, caring, engaged, passionate, positive person, then that'll be the brand that stays with you the rest of your life. When you compete for Big Sky championships, when you get hired after you graduate, and as you go forward to being leaders in your career. And I cannot stress this enough. If you manage this well, and if you manage your name, image, and likeness, and that you make sure that you're taking the steps every day to make sure that your personal brand has that positive image and that positive connotation that we want, everything about your lives can be amazing. There's never been a time that companies and organizations across the world have needed smart, engaged, talented, hardworking young people than today. I wish I could be all of your agents, and I don't mean that just from an athletic sense, because you're going to do amazing things. Build your brand, build your name, image, and likeness. It will help you while you're here at Idaho State University, but more importantly, it will help you in everything that you do for the rest of your life. And I'm glad you guys joined me, and I'm glad everybody joined me on video. I will tell you, you can find me online at the things that I talked about before, but you can also always email me at just Shane Hunt, ShaneHunt, at isu.edu. Come by the College of Business on the second floor. I'm always happy to help and visit with anyone. And I'm very thankful that you guys are here at Idaho State University, and I'm very thankful that I'm here as well. Have a great evening. Go Bengals.